owners of Wildcat Golf Club, which is located at Alameda and Airport Boulevard in the city. For those of you who are not familiar, we are on approximately 500 acres of a brownfield site that we work closely under Mayor Lee Brown's administration with Dawn Moses to take a landfill site and turn it into a golf course for the city. I'm here to talk about the drainage impact fee and the process and the things I've been through. Back in 2011, we went through the proper guidelines with our engineers to protest the drainage fee that was imposed on our property. We used the guidelines for calculated impervious surface adjustments that were approved in 2011 by Dan Kruger and Carl Smith. Our engineers took extensive plans when the golf course was built. We worked with Harris County Flood Control, and initially it was determined that we would pay an impact fee. We worked closely with our engineers and with the county before construction had started, and a brownfield site is heavily regulated by the federal government, the state government, because of the character of the land and the landfill. And through that process, we were told if we complied with the engineering of the golf course and did some extra things, which we did. We put approximately 11 lakes and ponds in the golf course. We had extensive mapping, drainage studies, and it was determined through the whole process, which I could go into a long, lengthy discussion, but we were self-contained. We drained, and the course was designed to run into all of our drainage lakes. And so then when we applied with the city to try to get this resolution, we started back in 2011 with our engineers, which we engaged to take the original plans that were approved by Harris County Flood Control in '99 and take those, and we worked with the engineering department to provide calculations, additional information. I spent about $25,000, and it was determined not once, but 5 times through verbal, emails, face-to-face meetings that our fee would be 0. Well, I'm understanding that it's a new program, but this has been going on for 2 years.
Thank you. Your time has expired.
Sorry you had to go through that. I'm familiar with Wildcat Golf Course. I'm sorry you had to go through this. Mr. Norman in the back, just stand up. I'm going to ask, and there's council members who want to talk to you, but before you leave, I'm going to ask if you would sit down and figure this out. There is, first of all, very little impervious surface at Wildcat Golf Course, and if you have engineering designs that show that you don't have runoff, and I would suspect you would, since it is a former landfill. I don't know what went wrong, but we need to fix it. So, thank you for coming down.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for your time.
Don't go away, though. There's a council member.
Okay.
Councilmember Burks.
Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming. Did you have anything else that you would like to say?
Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Stevens, I'm sorry. Ms. Johnson, still on my mind.
Councilman Burks, I would like to thank you personally, you and Mark Goldberg, because I was not getting anywhere with the process, and I was trying to be understanding. I approached Councilman Burks because we've done a lot of charity events and a lot of events that really enhance the city. And I went to Councilman Burks, and he helped me open some doors to get the communication going, because I was stonewalled. I couldn't get any resolution from anybody. So it got to be very, very frustrating, but I would like to really thank Councilman Burks. And I would, again, every time that we've been asked to provide additional engineering information, we're told we have approval to go to 0, and then time goes on, and then a month later, I've asked for letters, and they're not forthcoming, and then somebody else renders another opinion, and we're back to square one again. So please understand, I'm just trying to help the process and the communication to get a resolution, because it's been going on now for 2 years.
Mr. Stevens, let me just go over something with you. You know, I play at Wildcat all the time.
Yes, sir.
I have never in my years of playing there seen water standing on the golf course, water in the ditch that runs along the side of the west side of the golf course. I have never seen that. And there's a reason for that. There is a number of vegetation along that way going down, so therefore the water is always absorbed, if there is any water coming down, absorbed into the ground itself. The ditch, on the other hand, and help me out now, on the west side of that ditch, that I'm speaking of the Highlands and the Lakes,
Correct.
2 golf courses, is there a concrete company or a cement company or some type of gravel company there? And there's also further down south, there should be a number of homes in that area where streets dead into that ditch. Is that correct?
That's correct. The concrete plant actually has closed down, or they're not using it at this point. But going further south along the boundaries of the golf course towards Alameda, there is a residential community that's on the other side of the ditch that's adjacent from our golf course.
Right. Now, in my findings, I found out that someone said that it was the cart paths that were causing the water to drain down into that ditch. I can't believe that. That's like saying the sidewalk in front of your house is making the water drain into the streets.
Well, that's correct. That was the last go around. We determined again with our engineers and meetings, and then I had a meeting on May 14th, and we were told no. Now they wanted us to do another study on our cart paths. And just to give you perspective of this site, because of the environmental sensitivity, we spent $1.5 million initially with engineering, and we spent $2.5 to $3 million creating extra detention ponds on the site. And everything is designed to drain into those lakes, including the impervious surfaces of the cart paths and also the clubhouse, and even the parking lots
Yes.
and the roads. Even the roads going out to Alameda were designed, and that's when we worked closely with Harris County Flood Control, because at one point they wanted to assess us, and then we went through this working in collaboration with them. And in '99, they approved the site and said that actually we enhanced the whole area. And even with a 100-year flood, we have an additional 7 to 10 million gallons of excess detention on the site.
Motion to extend.
Second.
Favor and opposed, motion carries.
Let me also, I have a bill here, drainage utility bill. And the current bill is an amount of $5,992.76. If it's not paid by the 10th of June, it would be $6,292.40. The previous bill before that was $2,996.38. Kind of explain that to me.
Yes, sir. It's frustrating. Back in the fall of last year, we went through the process again. We had meetings with our engineers, and at that time, we were billed $30-some thousand plus interest and penalties. And we were told at that point by the engineering department that they would stop that until we could get resolution. And then this is when I got your office involved back in February or March. I was called one day and said, listen, if this bill is not paid immediately, we're going to turn your water off. Then I followed up, and I got Mark Goldberg assisted me, and we went to a meeting on May 14th, again at the engineering department with all the key people, and I was told again, we apologize, it should have never happened. And then we were supposed to get a letter of the last finding, which I still have not received. It was supposed to come within a week. And we were told at that meeting that everything was going to be put on hold, and don't worry about your billing until we get resolution. Well, then I get another bill on this month on the 21st. And frankly, I've got to tell you, the communication and the follow-through is poor at best. And I think as a citizen and a major contributor to this city and a taxpayer, I have a hard time understanding after almost 2 years, and I've heard everything from computer glitches to personnel changes. I've submitted engineering material 3 to 4 times and it's been lost. And I want to help the system, and I really hope that council understands my frustration, and I just want to get to the bottom of this thing. I'm not asking for an exemption that I don't deserve, but I believe that we should not be paying a drainage fee for our property.
Well, I believe the same thing, due to the fact that you do have the ponds, and when you enter Wildcat's facilities, you see a large pond to the left, which would be to the south of you. As you go in, you find as you drive in, you drive across the lakes course, which has a number of lakes there. And then at the same time, as you get to the parking lot, on the other side of that is the Highlands course, which has no water at all. But at the same time, what we have is a drainage system, a council, that really works, and it keeps the water inside the golf course itself. And the golf course is in excellent condition, and they've done a marvelous job. And I'm just sad that you've gone through, and disappointed you've gone through all of these ups and downs and changes. I just asked that Public Works, and I spoke to Public Works Director Kruger about this the other day. That's when he was telling me about the cart paths, and I told him this, that the cart path does not cause any water. It's just like a sidewalk. And so therefore, it does not cause a drainage down into the ditch or whatever it is. You have facilities there where drainage goes, water goes where you want it to go and stays where you want it to stay. I want to thank you for coming down also, and to let you know that we're going to stay on this until it gets satisfied.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Don't leave,
Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Christie.
Mr. Stevens, the question was, what was the bill for the 6 parcels? And I think he told me it was over $5,000. This obviously is a good commercial asset for a brownfield area. But just remember what the mayor said, that work with the city. There's a solution out there somewhere, so be positive about it. You don't have to beat City Hall. Just work with us. We'll get something done favorable to both parties.
Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes Member Green, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Okay. Mr. Stevens, thank you so much for coming down and bringing this to our attention. We love Wildcat. It's in my district case,
Yes, sir.
and I'm so glad that Councilman Burks and Ms. Goldberg have been able to assist you, and will continue to assist you through fruition. It's very interesting that Councilmember Burks knows the name of the courses, knows where the lakes are, knows the specifics of everything with regard to Wildcat, because he's the asset. But I had one question for Mr. Norman. Motion to extend.
Second.
Favor, vote.
Okay, thank you. With regard to the drainage utility bill, has this matter been stayed until the pending of this issue? Okay, so you will not be in jeopardy of getting your water turned off or anything like that? Okay, great, excellent. And anything we can do to assist it, I think you're in capable hands over there with Councilmember Burks. But anything you need, you just let us know as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Steve, let me say also for the record here, that Mr. Gary Norman with the Property Department, Public Works Department, has indicated, nodded head, that it has been stayed, that your water is not in jeopardy of being turned off until this issue is resolved. Thank you, Mr. Norman. Chair recognizes Member Martin.
Thank you. Good to see you again, Elmer.
Good to see you, Dave. Thank you.
A question, this is going to be directed to the mayor, so I guess I'll direct it to the Vice Mayor Pro Tem. In this year's budget, we have a number of dollars dedicated to a process improvement plan. And I'd love to see the very first dollar of a process improvement plan go towards public works, because I think that could be a very interesting finding. So if someone could relay that message to the administration, I think the very first dollar we spend needs to be dedicated to a process improvement plan on public works, because 2 years is a darn long time. I admire your patience. I'm interested in, as to what they told you on the cart paths, because they are an impervious surface. And the reason why I ask this, as you're very familiar with Kingwood, we have a number of trails that are impervious surfaces that have nowhere near streets. And the 80 miles of trails we have are assessed the same drainage fee. So what happens to you, I could use in Kingwood to maybe do the same type of thing that you're doing right now. So the first thing I'd ask of you is please let me know as you go down this path, the outcome. And secondly, what did they tell you about cart paths as it relates to drainage and impervious surfaces?
You know, Dave, we had very little conversation. This came up on the meeting on May 14th. And before that, again, our fee was supposed to be 0. And then they came up with the impervious cart path. And the methodology and the criteria that are set forth in the agreement that came, the regulations that came out in September of 2011 are nebulous. And from an engineering standpoint, there's different interpretations. And I've been trying to get our engineers, which the city engineers have agreed several times, and then this thing with the cart pass came up 2 weeks ago when I thought we were getting approval here. So I don't know what the criteria of evaluation, because when you have a complex site like this, if you give me a second, it's very difficult, and I understand the department has its challenges, but it's very difficult to evaluate a complex site like this using Google Earth Map. You just can't do that. And it may work for a standard building structure with parking lot and impervious cover, but when you have a 550-acre landfill site, it's totally different. And also give you some perspective. When there's major rains in the city, because all the other golf courses, majority of them are in floodplains, our golf course is open, and we are on the pass the next day. And I'll give you, when we had the major event on April 27th, when we had 7 inches of rain in an hour in 288 corridor, we were dry as a bone. Our lakes filled up as they should. Our ditches, because I was there in the front when our employees couldn't get home because the city was flooded. I went purposely on Holmes Road in the front, and our ditches were empty.
Sounds like your engineering plan worked the way it should.
Hopefully, because it was very expensive.
Yeah. Thanks. And just make sure that you inform us, because the same Google map that took images of Wildcat took images of the 80 miles of impervious surfaces in and around Kingwood, of which probably 70% have nothing to do with drainage or movement of water from a path into a street. So I'd be curious as to this whole process evolving, what the outcome is. So thanks, Don. Good seeing you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Member Davis, please.
Thank you. Are you aware of any other golf courses that are in the same situation that you're in?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay.
I don't. We researched it as much as possible, but we could not find any comparisons. Because again, our golf course is a little different than most, because it's a landfill, and most of the other golf courses, and I know because I was past president of Redstone Golf and all of our courses before I started my own company, they're all built in flood control areas to provide, in major storm events, to provide extra detention for the surrounding areas. Ours is a totally different scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to extend time?
Motion extended.
Second.
Discussion, favoring, opposed, motion carries. Mayor Pro Tem, Vice Mayor Pro Tem Bradford.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is for Mr. Stevens, and also maybe I'll yield to my colleague, Councilman Costello, because he chaired the flooding committee for a period of time and has some expertise in the area. My question is, what has been told to you, if anything, and if my colleague with Commissioner Mayor Costello will weigh in. My question has to do with the impervious type surfaces that are discussed here, whether they're sidewalks or cart paths. They are impervious, but the engineering is designed so on the property, it's designed so the runoff doesn't enter any city conduit. Should that be part of the drainage fee criteria if the runoff is contained completely within the property itself and it doesn't enter any city own drainage conduit? That's the question. Has anyone answered that question for you, Mr. Stevens?
Yes and no, okay? Because in fact, we actually, above and beyond our detention that was engineered, we actually have excess detention. And that's why we work so closely, because the Harris County Flood Control ditch is right next to our property. We work closely with them to engineer this and spend extra money so we didn't have runoff. And they agreed and gave us an approval letter back in 1999, after literally a drainage impact study that was done.
Wait, I hate to interrupt you, but give me the short answer, because I do want to yield to my colleague sitting to my left with the mayor's permission.
Councilmember, I can answer the question, and
Okay,
that
sure.
is that if, under our ordinance, if it is entirely self-contained, it is exempt from drainage fees. There's an entire subdivision, the Royal Oak subdivision out in far west Houston, that is entirely exempt from drainage fees because it is a completely self-contained drainage system.
Well, I do recall former Councilmember Mike Sullivan raising this same issue about some of the golf paths out on the Kingwood course as well, and they were built
And
for the fee.
they, just because it's, all the portions that have impervious cover would be subject to the drainage fee anyways, cart paths and so forth. The rest of it is exempt because it's grass. But just because it's grass doesn't mean that it necessarily, or rather just because it's a golf course doesn't mean that it necessarily all is self-contained in terms of the drainage system. Because this is a unique set of circumstances, it was built on landfill, it was constructed to be self-contained. I'm surprised that he's had to go through this process. As I stated at the beginning, I'd like him to visit with Mr. Norman. I've asked Ms. Chan, who's sitting in the back monitoring, to bird dog this. I'd like to find out what happened and why he's still going through this.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you, Councilman Costello. You want to add anything?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, I am an engineer, and yes, I am a drainage specialist, and yes, we do calculate drainage user fees based on impervious cover, which includes cart paths, which includes sidewalks, which includes sidewalks. The real question is absent of all the details, I can't weigh in on the specifics of the challenges that you're having in public works. We had hoped that 2 years ago, when we set up the what we would call a separate division of public works to look at these particular issues specifically throughout the city, that resolution would be easily accomplished rather than the frustration that you're hearing over a 2-year process. So, I'll find out relative to the specifics, because I know the mayor might ask me to weigh in, but I trust that the process should work properly. And so hopefully we'll be able to come to some resolution with your particular project.
Thank you. Steve, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Last but not least, Mr. Stevens, I just want to report to you that in my meeting with Director Kruger, I invited him to go out. He told me he was familiar with the Wildcat Golf Course, but I was going to take him out and take him down to the ditch. And I said, if you're brave enough to go down to the ditch, you can go down with me. And we will see where the water goes. It goes into the ground. It does not even reach the ditch, if it does that at all. You have done a marvelous job there at Wildcat. And I just want to say this, you are self-contained. Everything what you said is true. And I will still invite Director Kruger and anyone else to go out and let us just ride the cart path, not play golf, but just ride the cart path and actually just see exactly what they're talking about so we can get this straight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mayor.